everyone, my name is Mansell, and today we're going to be talking about hunting on psychedelics. Now first, a disclaimer, I don't suggest you do this at home on your own. This whole video is going to be informative, talking about the indigenous cultures, how they use psychedelics and hunting together, and I'm going to share my personal experience of using different substances while hunting. But that doesn't mean it's a good idea for you. I'm very experienced in both hunting and psychedelics, and this is just from personal experience. Now, if you wait to the end of this video, I'm going to share with you how you might be able to start if you truly want to. But let's get into the meat of it. So the biggest question that people have is, why do I combine hunting and psychedelics? Well, you can go ahead and visit this video here to understand a little bit more about it. But I'll give you the brief synopsis. Many of these substances heighten sensory acuity, make us hear, see, and feel differently in our landscape. It connects us more to nature. Indigenous people believed that these psychedelics were hunting medicine. They were ways in which they could be more connected to nature, the animals they hunted, and be more successful. And this is really important distinction because drinking beers, alcohol, other kinds of substances are very different. They're numbing substances compared to something like a psychedelic that could enhance our sensory capabilities. Each of these psychedelics, I'm going to start with a little bit of history and context, and then I'm going to share my personal experience. Number one is psilocybin. This is the most ubiquitous psychedelic that is used by humanity. In fact, there's evidence in stone drawings that are dating back 6,000 years in Spain in the caves, and we have plenty of evidence that the Aztecs and cultures all over the world were utilizing psilocybin. In fact, the Aztec culture, their Nahuatl word for psilocybin was translated as flesh of the gods. It was a way for them to connect and commune with a higher power. Now, the unique thing about psilocybin is that they are so widely distributed, they are easily accessible for people all over the world. This has led to Terrence McKenna's hypothesis called the stoned ape theory, where he suggests that perhaps humans evolved our cognitive capacity because we were following these game animals and eating psilocybin mushrooms while we were following and foraging, and therefore enhancing our cognitive capabilities. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I do know that it is ubiquitous and therefore used by cultures all over the world. Now, my personal experience is that hunting with psilocybin, especially the afterglow of an experience, does improve my hunting capabilities. I have a much greater sensory connection to the world around me, but I also have a much greater connection to my own feelings and my own intuition. Oftentimes, our intuition is spot on. Our gut instinct is really accurate, but we don't always give ourselves permission or feel where exactly it's coming from. With psilocybin, I definitely can utilize my intuition a lot more, and it is not only a more successful experience, and often is a more profound and spiritual experience to hunt utilizing psilocybin as well. In fact, one of my dear friends and former sacred hunting attendee, Kyle Kingsbury, once wrote that it was incredible, easily one of the best experiences of my life. First kill on the tail end of medicine. I've never experienced anything like it. Number two is ayahuasca. This is a brew utilizing DMT. It's an entheogen used in South America by tribes in the Amazon basin. It is one of the most commonly used substances for these tribes for the purposes of hunting. They use it to connect with the spirits of the animals that they are hunting, the spirits of the animals that are predators, so they connect to the jaguar in that space. And they also utilize it to have greater perceptions and to ward off dark magic. Now, we can use it for similar such things. I'm going to read a couple of quotes from one of my favorite books, The Wizard of the Upper Amazon. You must have complete knowledge of the forest to lead the men in vision ceremonies to improve their hunting. Thus they can eat well and be content. Within a few days of the burial, several of the men came to me and said it was time I led them in a vision session so their hunting skill would come back to normal. From both of these excerpts, you can see that they are clearly talking about an ayahuasca ceremony for the purposes of supporting hunting. And this is a key piece of evidence to suggest how closely linked these substances were for indigenous cultures and their hunt. While in the jungle, one of my friends was able to go out in the middle of an ayahuasca experience at night, find a capybara, an animal that they eat in the jungle, brought it back to the fire, and cut it open and gutted it while on ayahuasca. So I know for a fact people can and do hunt successfully on ayahuasca. It is, however, quite an intense experience. So although I don't recommend it, if you go down to the jungle, it might be a part of your experience. So number 3 is Kambo. And Kambo is a frog secretion, a toxin that is often applied directly into the lymphatic system and provides a whole host of benefits. It's less hallucinatory as ayahuasca and psilocybin and more physical, but it is an intense experience that can elicit purging, and most importantly, it is very much used for the purposes of hunting in South America. So tribes such as the Arawak tribe consider Kambo a way to cleanse negative energy, or panema. And although you and I, with a Western worldview, might not necessarily understand the negative energy in the same context that these indigenous people do, we can understand how it affects our physiology. And Kambo, the secretion, is a toxin. Once a purge is had, or once the experience is over, sensations are incredibly heightened. So visual sensations are much better, sense of smell is much better, and a general connectedness to nature is also present. But there is something about the intense physical nature that heightens the senses and is a key tool for hunting. In the West, we want to understand the science and see how this impacts us. Well, a 1992 study found that the peptides in Kambo interact with opioid and other receptors in the body, and there is some clear evidence that it improves our capacities within connecting with nature. My personal experience using Kambo is that I could connect very well to the pain of being a hunted animal. My intention was to go in, understand what it's like to be hunted, and the intense pain that comes from Kambo gave me at least somewhat of an experience that could grow my empathy for animals that are being hunted on a day-to-day basis. Even though I've never done Kambo right before going out on the hunt, I have used them in the same container, and they do provide such an added benefit of just connection to the process of hunting. So the 4th psychedelic is iboga. And iboga is a shrub from the Central African country of Gabon. It is used most often in the United States and the West for the treatment of addiction, and specifically opiate addiction. Iboga is an intense physical experience that often creates such a visceral physical reaction that it helps support people who struggle from addiction and PTSD. So the indigenous Mitsogo and Bwiti people utilize iboga for big doses, mega doses, just like we do for ceremonial purposes, but they also use smaller doses. and I have spoken with Dr. Dan Engel, who's talked about the use case for lower doses of iboga for a wide range of things. And of course, specifically, I'm going to talk about utilizing iboga for the purposes of hunting. When I used iboga in a microdose, I found it to be a quite subtle and pleasant experience that definitely supported my utilizing my senses for the purposes of hunting. And I wouldn't have expected it because iboga, when taken in high doses, is very physically intense and can be pretty debilitating for the period where one is in the ceremony. So this was quite a surprise for me. Again, I don't recommend anyone just go out and try it, but a microdose of iboga can be useful while hunting. As an aside, an Italian scientist studied a mandrill, which is a type of primate. In the study, he found that the mandrill, an animal, would use iboga as a stimulant to successfully fight other opponents for dominance in their hierarchy. So it is definitely something that is stimulating, whether we're humans or other primates. It's clear that this is an effective tool to bring violence into the world, whether that be these animals in conflict with one another, or whether it just means for you and I to hunt more successfully. Now, the final thing that I'll say with iboga is that there are plenty of scientific studies that show it can improve reaction time, definitely helpful on the hunt, and it can have a pain-killing effect. Now, this can be helpful if you're struggling with pain, but it can also be helpful in really cold climates. I've never tried it personally, but if you do get a microdose of iboga, it could be very useful in colder climates. Number 5, the final hunting psychedelic is hape. And of course, this is not actually a traditional psychedelic, but it is included within that mind-altering substance category for a number of reasons. Hape is a combination of tobacco with a series of different herbs and barks and extracts and ash. It's inhaled in the nose, and it can be an incredibly grounding experience. It can help to purge some things, but it is also very, very valuable for hunting purposes. It is utilizing nicotine, of course, through the tobacco in order to have a stimulating and more sensory experience of the world around. And so indigenous cultures in South America definitely use hape as hunting medicine. They will use it frequently. Honestly, they use it all over the place whenever they want, but it is definitely used as part of the hunting practice. In the Matsis tribe, it is a really powerful and unique cultural practice that only one hunter can serve hape to another hunter. They do this because they believe that it is an exchange of knowledge and energy to utilize hape. And so it is very much an important cultural practice for this tribe to only go from hunter to hunter and not have someone who's inexperienced hunting provide you with that medicine. When I lead sacred hunting experiences, I do offer people an opportunity to utilize hape before they go out on the hunt. It is a really great tool, not only for the stimulatory effects, but also simply for visualizing and going through a practice of seeing and connecting with that animal. The more we visualize, the more we are able to have that experience in our day-to-day life. And it's really important both for the indigenous people and for us on a sacred hunting experience to utilize this tool in the ways that have been done for tens of thousands of years. For me personally, when I use hape before hunting, it is a way to feel way more grounded. If I have to define it in one word, it's grounded. And that's really important because if I'm on the landscape looking for an animal, the last thing that I want to do is be ungrounded, fidgety, and feeling out of place. So it is a really useful tool, and it might be one of the best ways to begin if these other substances are new to you or just seem a little bit too intense. With all these substances, it's really important to note that there are hundreds or thousands of years of cultural practices that have gone into the rituals and the ceremony of utilizing these substances. And these should not be overlooked. It's not something that you can just take and utilize for your own purposes without trying to understand the ceremony that comes with it. And that's one thing that I recommend, is to do it in connection with people. Almost all these indigenous cultures have done it in the community. Healing, participating in hunting is a communal event. Now, I don't consider myself an expert in any regard, but I have spent a lot of time with indigenous cultures. I've learned, I've studied, I've implemented, and my hope is that I create a safe space for people to utilize not just these substances while hunting, but also utilize them in a ceremonial and ritual context. So if you do want to get started, my organization, Sacred Hunting, facilitates transformational experiences, including both psychedelics and hunting, many of the substances, though not all, that I have described in this video. I've led over 54 experiences to date in the last 3 years, and I would love to have you as a starting point to connect with this type of work. If you're interested, go ahead, find the link above, below, wherever you see the link, to apply for a beginner immersion, and I look forward to seeing you there.